Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing today went about exactly as you probably would assume that it went terribly. But I said that he's going to get confirmed anyway because that's almost a guarantee because of the Republican Party. Now, keep in mind, you can point to Matt Gaetz, who was initially appointed to be Attorney General, but he didn't make it that far. Now, the reason he didn't make it that far really is not because of his, the sexual allegations with Minor, and just basically his nasty reputation. It has not much to do with that. It has much more to do with the fact that Republicans in Congress just personally didn't like him, personally didn't get along with him. But because Matt Gaetz is he's not worse than Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth may be even worse than him when it boils down to it. He's just some dude on Fox who kisses Trump's ass, which is why Donald Trump nominated him to be the Secretary of Defense. So we got quite a few videos to watch, and I got to go to the gym. So let's get straight into these clips of him bombing the hearing, but he's going to get, he'll get the position anyway.
And let me just say that the American people need a SecDef who's ready to lead on day one. You are not that person. Our adversaries watch closely during times of transition, and any sense that the Department of Defense that keeps us safe is being steered by someone who's wholly unprepared for the job puts America at risk, and I am not willing to do that. With that in mind, Mr. Hegseth, I want you to try to explain to the American people, this committee, who have to vote for you, and to our troops who are deployed around the world, why you are qualified to lead the Department of Defense. We already know that you've only led the largest, a 200-person organization. We already know that you so badly mangled a budget that after you left, they had to bring in a forensic accountant to figure out what went wrong. And that the largest budget you ever managed was about $18 billion. That is about 51,560 times fewer.
She meant to say million, not billion.
Lower than the Department of.
Well, in case you didn't catch that. But basically, again, like all these things she's listing out has nothing to do with his sexual assault allegations and nothing to do with the fact that of his past as an alcoholic. None of that. She's talking about just general incompetence. But, this is what Trump wants. So this is what he's going to get.
Defense budget of $825 billion. $16 million is 51,568 times smaller than the defense budget. Please describe to me, Mr. Hegseth, you talk about DOD passing an audit. Please describe to me a time or an organization when that you led underwent an audit, because you say you're going to hire smarter people than you to run this audit. I'm not asking you to be an accountant. I want you to be able to tell me what kind of guidance will be given to those employees, what will happen whether or not you pass that audit. Have you led an audit of any organization? Yes or no? I don't want a long answer. Yes or no? Have you led an audit of any organization of which you were in charge?
Senator, in both of the organizations I ran, we were always completely fiscally responsible.
Yes or no? Did you lead an audit?
And the way
yes or no? Did you lead an audit? Yes or no?
Completely
what are you afraid of? You can't answer this question. Yes or no? Did you lead an audit? Do you not know this answer?
Senator,
yes or
part
no?
of my
she not let it go. He like, I can't say. I don't know. Shit.
Yes or no? Yes or no? Did you lead an audit? I will take that as a no. What were the findings? So there were no findings because you've never led an audit. What guidance did you give the auditors? None, because you've never led an audit. Nobody expects you to be an accountant, Mr. Hegseth. What we expect is for you to understand the complexity of this Pentagon budget process that is absolutely necessary to outfit our warfighters. Look, the Secretary of Defense is required to make quick decisions every single day with high-level information that's being provided for them. A Secretary of Defense has to have breadth and depth of knowledge. Right now, I am concerned that you have neither. Mr. Hegseth, what is the highest level of international negotiations that you have engaged in, that you have led in? Because the Secretary of Defense does lead international security negotiations. There are three main ones that the Secretary of Defense leads and signs. Can you name at least one of them?
Could you repeat the question, Senator?
Sure. What is the highest level of international security agreement that you have led? And can you name some that the Secretary of Defense would lead? There's three main ones. Do you know?
I have not been involved in international security arrangements because I have not been in government other than serving in the military. So my job.
I've never been in government. I served in the military. I wasn't a general. I didn't lead any large bodies of people. But now all of a sudden, I'm just going to take the reins of the largest employer in the country. An organization that oversees almost $1 trillion. Yeah, all of a sudden now I'm qualified for it. Kamala Harris, she was totally unqualified to be president. This guy, he's totally qualified to be Secretary of Defense because white people.
Job has been to
no, the answer is, can you name one of the three main ones that the Secretary of Defense
talking about defense arrangements? I mean, NATO might be one that you're referring to.
Status of Forces Agreement would be one of them.
Status of Forces Agreement. I've been a part of teaching about Status of Forces Agreement.
But you don't remember to mention it? You're not qualified, Mr. Hegseth. You're not qualified. You talk about repairing our defense industrial complex. You're not qualified to that. You could do acquisition and cross-servicing agreements, which essentially are security agreements.
Bro, she is grilling his ass.
You can't even mention that. You've done none of those. You talked about the Indo-Pacific a little bit, and I'm glad that you mentioned.
All right, we're going to have to go ahead and skip to the next one because, again, I don't want this video to be too long because y'all can check the rest of it. It was a longer hearing. So we're going to go ahead and get to the next one. And then, like I said, I got to go to the gym. You know what I mean? I got to get my pump on. Got to get my run on. Got to do my thing. All right. So now who we got? We got Slotkin. We got Elisa Slotkin from Michigan.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. And thank you for referencing. I'm a CIA officer recruited after 9/11. I did 3 tours armed in Iraq alongside the military. And have worked for 4 different secretaries of defense, both Democrat and Republican, proudly, and watched them make decisions that literally determine the life and death of Americans in the dark of night. I'm also a Democrat representing a state that Trump won, right? We both won on the same ballot. So I understand that President Trump has the right to nominate his people. We are going to have policies that we disagree with. All of that, to me, comes very standard. What I think I'm most concerned with is that no president has the right to use the uniformed military in a way that violates the U.S. Constitution. And our founders designed citizens potentially in the breach. Do you agree that there are this order? Do you agree that there are some orders that can be given by the commander-in-chief that would violate the U.S. Constitution?
Senator, thank you for your service. But I reject the premise that President Trump is going to be giving illegal orders.
No, I'm not saying he will, but do you believe there is such a thing as an illegal order that Joe Biden?
I can't imagine. I just can't possibly imagine that Donald Trump would do something illegal. I can't possibly imagine that he would want to do something that's, not really a good decision for us or the world. So I'm not going to answer that. I mean, bro, this shit is crazy. Donald Trump's administration. This is the biggest clown car administration in the history of this country.
Or any other president Donald Trump could give. Is there anything that a commander-in-chief could ask you to do with the uniformed military that would be in violation of the U.S. Constitution?
Senator, anybody of any party could give an order that is against the Constitution or against the law.
Right. Okay. So are you saying that you would stand in the breach and push back if you were given an illegal order?
I start by saying I reject the premise that President Trump will be giving
you've done your
any illegal orders.
Again, that's pretty much how the whole thing went. When it comes to the possibility that Donald Trump might do something wrong or might do something illegal on any premises, he's like, no, I'm not going to answer that question because I just can't imagine a world where Donald Trump would get into some trouble. I can't picture a world where Donald Trump would break the law. That's totally unheard of. All right, now we're going to go ahead and get to Kirsten Gillibrand, talking to him a little bit. We're going to skim through it because we don't need to watch the whole thing.
Concerns about your record to differentiate between different types of combat. And specifically, as secretary, would you take any action to reinstitute the combat arms exclusion for female service members, knowing full well you have hundreds of women doing that job right now? And the standards, your 2 mile run, Tom, is about the Army combat fitness test. It is not the requirements to have an MOS 11 Bravo, which is the infantry. These are the requirements today for people serving in the industry, men and women. They are gender neutral and they are very difficult to meet. They have not been reduced in any way. And our combat units, our infantry is lethal. So please explain specifically, because you will be in charge of 3 million personnel. It is a big job. And when you make these public statements, and I get you were not Secretary of Defense then, I get you were on TV, I get you were helping veterans, I get it was a different job. But most recently, you said this in November of 2024, knowing full well you might have been named as Secretary of Defense. So please explain these types of statements, because they're brutal and they're mean and they disrespect men and women who are willing to die for this country.
Well, Senator, I appreciate your comments. And I would point out, I have never disparaged women serving in the military. I respect every single female service member that has put on the uniform, past and present. My critiques, Senator, recently and in the past, and from personal experience, have been instances where I've seen standards lowered, and you mentioned 11 Alpha, 11 Bravo, MOS, places in units, and the book that has been referenced multiple times here, The War on Warriors. I spent months talking to active duty service members, men and women, low ranks, high ranks, combat arms and not combat arms. And what each and every one of them told me, and which personal instances have shown me, is that in ways direct, indirect, overt, and subtle, standards have been changed inside infantry training units, ranger school, infantry battalions, to ensure that
Give me one
commanders
example. Please give me an example. I get you're making these generalized
meet
statements.
quotas to have a certain number of female infantry officers or infantry enlisted, and that disparages those women who are
Commanders do
incredibly
not have to
capable
meet
of meeting
quotas
that
for the infantry.
standard.
Commanders do not have to have a quota for women in the infantry. That does not exist. It does not exist. And your statements are creating the impression that these exist, because they do not. There are not quotas. We want the most lethal force.
Again, that's how the whole entire thing went. Next, we're moving on to a video where he won't answer if he said he will resign because he has a history of alcohol abuse. I personally have a history of drug abuse and still struggle with it, so I'm not talking about him on a personal level like that. But that doesn't mean that obviously that he should be the Secretary of Defense if you have an issue with alcohol. So he won't answer this question.
Discipline or entered into a settlement relating to this kind of conduct?
Senator, I was falsely accused in October of 2017. It was fully investigated and I was completely cleared.
I don't think completely cleared is accurate, but the fact is that your own lawyer said that you entered into an NDA and paid a person who accused you of raping her a sum of money to make sure that she did not file a complaint. Moving on.
Okay, okay. I think this is the one about alcohol.
You know that being drunk at work is prohibited for service members under the UCMJ?
Senator, those
Yes
are
or no?
multiple false anonymous reports peddled by NBC
Do you
News
know
that run
that
directly
drinking on the job
contradictory to the
is
dozens of men and women at
not
Fox News
contemplated?
Channel
And
who I work with
I'm
who
not
came
hearing
on
the
the
answer to my
record
question.
and said they've
In your
never
opening
seen
statement,
that.
Mr. Hegseth, you commit to holding leaders accountable at all levels. That includes you, of course. And frankly, as secretary, you will be on the job 24/7. You recently promised some of my Republican colleagues that you stopped drinking and won't drink if confirmed, correct?
Absolutely.
Will you resign as Secretary of Defense if you drink on the job, which is a 24/7 position?
I've made this commitment on behalf of
Will
the
you
men and women I'm
resign as
serving.
Secretary of Defense
I've
if
made this
you
commitment
drink
on
on the
behalf of
job?
the men and women I'm serving
I'm not
because it's the
hearing-
most important deployment
I'm not
of my
hearing an
life.
answer to my question, so I'm going to move on.
Now I might have a few days, a few weeks where I'm, toasted out of my mind. So I'm not gonna say yes. I'm not just gonna say yes, I'll resign. I've made the commitment to do my best. That's what I'll say. Here we got him with Elizabeth Warren.
Question I have for you on this is, will you put your money where your mouth is and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about
You
because
can
it's
think
not
about it
one
right
that,
now.
it's not one my motivation for this job
I
has
understand
never
that. I
been
just
about
need
what
a
could
yes or no
conceivably
here.
come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should
In
be at the
other
Defense Department.
words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. So you're saying sauce for the goose, but certainly not sauce for the gander?
I would want to see what the policy of the
Oh, I'll
president is.
bet you
Thank-
would.
Thank you.
Like you other motherfuckers should follow the rules, but now that I'm here, fuck all that shit. All right, now I haven't seen this. We're gonna skim through it though. I think this is Pete Hegseth talking about how there's just a media smear campaign and that, you know, people just don't want to see him be great.
I will begin my about financial. I should know in publications.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that opportunity. You are correct. We undertook this responsibility with an obligation to the troops to do right by them for our warfighters. And what became very evident to us from the beginning, there was a coordinated smear campaign orchestrated in the media against us. That was clear from moment one. And what we knew is that it wasn't about me. Most of it was about President Donald Trump, who's had to endure the very same thing for much longer amounts of time. And he endured it incredibly strong ways. So we, in some ways, knew it was coming. We didn't understand the depth of the dishonesty that would come with it. So from story after story in the media, left-wing media, we saw anonymous source after anonymous source based on second or third-hand accounts. And time again, stories would come out and people would reach out to me and say, you know, I've spoken to this reporter about who you really are, and I was willing to go on the record. But they didn't print my quote. They didn't print any of my quotes. Or I've worked with you for 10 years, or I was your accountant, or I was your chief operating officer, or I was your board member, or I was with you on 100 different tour stops for Concerned Veterans for America. No one called me. No one asked about your conduct on the record or off the record. Instead, a small handful of anonymous sources were allowed to drive a smear campaign, an agenda about me, because our left-wing media in America today, sadly, doesn't care about the truth.
Oh my God. Okay, the idea that the media's left wing is hilarious, but also that the left doesn't care about the truth is these people are just nothing but projection. I mean, come on. Like, dude, you worked for Fox News, who had to settle with Dominion voting for almost $1 billion because y'all can't stop lying. You lie all the damn time, and he knows this.
All they were out to do, Mr. Chairman, was to destroy me.
Because, you know, before I got nominated to be Secretary of Defense, I was fighting so hard for the little man and the little woman of this country. And, you know, the powers that be, the establishment, just don't want there to be any type of titanic shift in the political socioeconomic structure of this nation. And so you're like, dude, you're not a fighter for the little man. You're not a threat to the establishment. There's no reason for anybody to have ever come after you. And they haven't until now, because now you're in the process of being nominated to a very important position.
And why do they want to destroy me? Because I'm a change agent and a threat to them, because Donald Trump was willing to choose me, to empower me, to bring the Defense Department back to what it really should be, which is warfighting.
Yeah, but yeah, to bring the Defense Department back to warfighting, because, you know, America just, you know, we've been slacking on our military, you know what I mean? Like 800 plus military bases around the country, damn near $1 trillion military budget. Don't matter who's in office, the military budget goes up. Don't matter who in office, America gonna do what we do in the Middle East. Don't matter who in office, America gonna let Israel do whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, we've just been getting off track. There's one more, but I'm not going to play it because this video is almost 20 minutes long now. And, you know, I think y'all pretty much get the point. Hey now, Thank you so much for tuning in here at Politics and Paper. If you like what I do and you support my work, go ahead and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it and it really helps to support what we do here.